President accounted for. Oh, where did Mr. Coppola go?
Might be indisposed for a moment. Get this back. Come on now.
Okay, Anthony's back. All right, the meeting will come to order. This is the Monday, April 1st, 2013, 7 p.m. work session of the River Edge Mayor and Council. The work session will begin now and go through 8 o'clock, and then we will reopen for the regular public meeting. The adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by sending notices on December 21st, 2012 to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News, by positioning notice of the meeting on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Borough Hall, and by filing notice of the meeting with the municipal clerk. I'd like to remind the public that there are 3 exits in council chambers, 2 to the front and 1 to the rear. We are on the record. Everything that's being said and seen is being recorded by video and audio during the public portion of the meeting. If you wish to be heard, you need only stand and give us your name and address, and you can ask any questions or make any statements regarding any matters affecting your interest. If you wish to be seen at a later time on when the meeting is put out on the World Wide Web, you need to come to the front and stand by the microphone. Let's see. Can I have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Freda?
Present.
Councilman Coppola?
Here.
Councilman Bignoni?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mascarotola.
Present. All right. The first item we have is a continued discussion of a proposed ordinance for smoke-free parks. And we have with us members of our Recreation Commission. We also have with us Mr. Ferreira from Bergen County, who may wish to make a public comment regarding the proposed ordinance. I know that when we discussed the proposed ordinance at the last council meeting, we had some questions regarding the scope of the ordinance and how it could be enforced. So if we could hear from the Rec Commission, we could take that into consideration when we, if we decide to adopt the ordinance, if we decide to make any modifications to it.
And Mayor, just based on the comments at the last meeting, I revised the proposed ordinance. There was concern about the adjacent to the parks. Section 2 of the revised ordinance took into consideration where now it says within the boundaries of the parks listed and in any other public park. So that should take care of any concerns that the Mayor and Council had regarding the adjacent or where does it end. It's now within the boundaries. I also removed some of the language regarding the signs being posted. The language that was in there was too restrictive, and if you choose to accept the free signs that you may be able to get, the more broader no smoking signs posted will comply with that. The last change that is really not a change is it's still in there that the enforcer should be the police department and or the health department. I know there's some discussion, but I think we all agreed that we'll keep both in for now. So those are the changes that I made based on the comments.
Okay.
Do you want us to just be here or just move forward?
Well, how many are going to speak? We have 3 chairs there. If more than 3 people can want to speak, you can stay where you are. If there's only 3 of you, you can come forward.
Cindy Sherlock, Chairman of Recreation. This is Jim Tian, one of our commissioners. And Val Duran, Alicia Arnazol, and Chris Gilbert here also. Our purpose of doing this is, as a Recreation Commission, our responsibility is to give a safe and healthy environment to all our participants. And we do that already by getting our fields maintained, and with this now new, I could say what do we want to say, like a new trend of non-smoking in public areas. And you see it at the elementary schools and at the high schools. There's no smoking at the facilities there, so why not do it at ours? It's another thing that we can do to help promote good health to our residents and to kids, to be a good example to the kids to see, number one, you're playing a sport which is healthy, now don't smoke to be even healthier. So this is why we put this ordinance together, and it's really for our parks. That's what we were looking at. And, you know, I'm not an attorney, so the wording, and thank you, because I knew there was some concerns with the wording of it and the adjacent properties, but that is really what we're here for. And if there's any questions that you have of us that we could answer, I'm more than happy.
I had a question as to, are there particular areas or locations within any recreation facilities that you have, you know, concerns about?
The entire, the whole aspect of this, I feel, is that every recreation area that's governed by the borough should be covered under this. If we do the smoking areas, or if we, you know, the pavilion or anything, then we worry about secondhand smoke. And if we use, these are the signs that they've erected in Paramus. I work for the borough of Paramus, and I notice this around, they're everywhere throughout the borough, and they were able to get these for free through GASP, which is the Global Advisory of Smoke-Free Policy, which is a great program. And then Paramus, they enacted an ordinance not too long ago. It started the beginning of this year. And
these are free if you go 100% smoke-free in your parks. These signs are free.
What about parking lots?
Now, we're dealing with our parks. Right now, we don't have parking lots in our park. KBG, half of it is swim club parking, and then the parking lot by the DPW. I don't know, I mean...
Yeah, I think that is something that we probably would have to look into a little bit more. But I think, and one of the things that we discussed at our meetings and in conversations between the committee and Mrs. Conway, is, and also along with the lines of, you know, the police department having to come down and police this, and I don't think that's really the issue that we're dealing with. It's more of a putting the onus on the parents, the coaches, the park goers, the adults, to try and get out, and if you see the signs out there, put it on us, not so much put it on the municipality to go out and enforce it, but if you see these signs out there, and these are a different type of sign than we have for everything else, you know, there's some color to it, it's eye-catching, and it's going to get people to, you know, to start understanding that, you know, this is something that's bad for our children out there, and let us get out there and say, hey, listen, this is something we have in our park. As for, you know, we have houses that go around the park. You're not going to tell somebody who lives on one of the streets that are adjacent to Center Avenue or whatever, if they back up to one of the parks, you're not going to sit there and say, hey, you can't smoke in your backyard. Obviously, we can't be that nitpicky. And I think, you know, the streets, the cul-de-sacs going to the park, I don't think we're looking to go to that point. The boundaries of the park, I assume, would be curb to curb. So, you know, those issues, I don't think is something we really have to worry about. The parking lot is probably something we really do have to investigate, because that is borough property. But again, you know, and I know it's one of the questions is who's going to police this. It's one of those things that I feel that this is the community's job to police this. This is the coach. As a board member for River Edge Little League, I would put it out to our members saying, listen, if you see somebody smoking, you need to speak up. We had that last year in one of our games, and we had a parent come over to somebody who was at the field leaning on the fence, smoking a cigarette, watching the game. You know, that's his right, that was, you know, that's his enjoyment. But you know what, that's not good for my kid or somebody else. He was spoken to, and he said, yeah, you guys are right. And he stepped back. He moved back out of the way and everything, and then obviously got the point that he shouldn't be doing that. And I think that's by putting this out, that's what we need to do.
Okay.
If that makes any sense, you know, really making this a community issue and not really worrying about the enforcement so much as other than getting everybody to feel that this stuff is really bad for our kids and we don't want them to have this around them.
Questions from the dais? Kathleen?
I would agree. It's like a self-policing, you know, that once the word gets out, you won't have to have people like policemen going chasing people. It'll just, the word will get out and people know about it and then they won't do it.
Like you're walking your dog and someone doesn't pick up the poop and you see them and you're like, hey, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, you speak out.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if, Alphonse, did you hand out the gas? I have here...
No. I handed this out from this gentleman.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, we didn't hand it, stuff from
you
gas.
did, the municipalities that have...
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Farrar, would you like to
And
say
then
anything?
there was the, did you hand the Passaic?
Yes, the ordinance for Passaic.
The ordinance for
also
Passaic.
included.
I think you
Verbiage is
handed
very
out
good.
too.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it?
That's it, unless anyone has
Anything
any other
Anything,
questions.
Mr. Farrar?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Can I just stay here?
Yeah, sure, no, you can stay there. Just give us your name.
I'm Al Ferrara from Bergen County Department of Health Services, and this is Cindy Meekum from the Center for Prevention and Counseling, representing Tobacco Free for Healthy New Jersey. We're a team along with New Jersey Gas because the State Health Department awarded our Bergen County Department of Health Services a grant to provide a Bergen-Hudson Chronic Disease Coalition. And basically what the state has asked us to do, and this is extremely timely in the fact that you're considering an ordinance, is the fact that one of the core interventions that the state has asked us to go out and work on, outreach, and then hopefully become successful in facilitating the adoption of ordinances. And basically this core intervention is an environmental tobacco control initiative. As our representatives have alluded to, the state basically wants to focus on changing the culture in regards to individuals and smoking. And what we are banking on is the fact we're not going to talk about enforcement in the sense of finages, but that's certainly a prerogative if the town wants to do that. But our main focus is, of course, protecting all the individuals who unfortunately may be exposed to secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, is a grade A cancer-causing agent. It is as damaging and deadly as asbestos, radon, benzene. It's in the same league of those kinds of chemicals and gases. And basically, what can happen is the concentrations of mainstream smoke that a smoker will inhale and then exhale into the environment, those concentrations of 7,000 chemicals, metals, and gases are actually higher in concentration than what the smoker is doing to their own body. The point being is that we don't want people to become exposed. Any exposure to secondhand smoke could possibly indicate illness and potential disease as we go along. One of the things you had mentioned, Mayor, about parking lots and surrounding areas, one of the things that they've done are studies on the effects of secondhand smoke and the amount of footage that you can be safely away without risking a health exposure. In the University of Maryland, they did a study and they deemed that 23 feet would be probably a safe boundary or an area or a setback so that, again, people will not get exposed to secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke causes 3,000 lung cancer deaths every year. 50,000 people will develop heart disease from secondhand smoke exposure. We know the youngest of infants, tragically, studies have shown that secondhand smoke exposure could be a leading cause of sudden infant death syndrome. This is more so in, again, a home where a mom or a dad or both are smokers, a newborn infant, close proximity to the parents, getting exposure. But we're talking on the outside. Outside or outdoor secondhand smoke has been deemed just as hazardous or more so than indoor secondhand smoke. So one of the things that you did allude to is the mixed messages that our kids are getting. The Smoke-Free Air Act in 2006 takes care of no smoking in any indoor public places. And the thing is, basically, right now, kids are kind of used to that. They go to a food establishment with their family. There's no smoking there. They may see people going between courses, ducking outside and smoking, but there's no smoking in indoor public places. But when they go to parks or recreation areas in many municipalities, both in Bergen and Hudson counties, there are people that are smoking. And it gives them a mixed message because of the fact that, well, I thought there's no smoking at all. Why are people smoking outdoors? I guess it's okay to do that. And again, we want to retard the numbers of new smokers. Studies show that about every day, close to 4,000 kids try cigarettes for the first time, and about 1/4 of those, or 1,000, are actually the new recruited smokers from the tobacco industry. In New Jersey,
According to New Jersey Gas, the Global Advisors on Smoke-Free Policy, 85% of New Jerseyans don't smoke. We're talking about 15% of the New Jersey population that are smokers. I think, again, most people are looking at this issue very, very closely. It sets a very positive message in regards to not only youth, but particularly anyone who may be immunocompromised, having some type of respiratory difficulties or whatever. Secondhand smoke is an irritant, and again, I don't have all the time to name all 7,000 chemicals, metals, and gases. But again, many of them are caustic, irritating, and can cause serious health issues through constant exposure. If your town, and I'm sure it is, it's a lovely community with green, environmental kinds of precepts, this would be also a feather in the cap in regards to proving the fact that you want your beautiful parks and recreation areas to show or illustrate how River Edge is committed to being green. Now, Cindy would just like to just talk briefly, if it's okay. This initiative's been going on in Passaic County. We're doing it in Hudson, and you can talk about some of the successes.
Hi, my name is Cindy Meekum. I'm over 7 northern New Jersey counties, and we began this initiative in Passaic County, and Patterson was our first town that we, targeted, and we got them to go tobacco-free, smoke-free in their parks. So since the beginning of last year, there's about 25 towns, and we just got Hudson County parks have just become smoke-free. Hudson County parks and Passaic County parks. So if you go forward with it, you're definitely on the right path with other towns and municipalities around your area. I'm all over from Lopakon. I'll be tomorrow to North tomorrow. So, anytime you need any help, I work with gas. And also, number one litter in New Jersey is cigarette butts. It takes about 1,000 years for a cigarette butt to disintegrate. So besides, having kids smoke in the park, you walk around, you see cigarette butts on the floor. I have a butt jar. The kids in Patterson in an hour picked out a whole, butt jar of Poland Springs filled up. So that's the number one litter is cigarette butts, and the number two is cigarette packs and lighters. So besides that, tobacco is being bad for us and the smoking. We grew up in the 70s, 60s. It was normal. People were smoking in hospitals, and today we know that that's just, it's not good for us, So, and I lost, parents very young that were smoking. So this is close to my heart, and River Edge is a beautiful community. So keep your, hope to keep your town nice and clean.
Yeah.
Less cigarette butts.
There are 15 communities in Bergen County currently that are 100% smoke-free. So again, the proviso, again, is that if you go 100% smoke-free, these signs, as many as you need, will be afforded to you.
And then
to personalize it,
on the bottom.
right, if you do pass the ordinance, the number will be provided to us. We'll send it down to the American Cancer Society in North Brunswick, and they will send back a sticker. Sometimes some towns will just put the ordinance number, or maybe put just some other kinds of things, possibly the signage or whatever. But again, it's personalize it. If you were to enforce it, a police officer, a health department official would at least have the ordinance handy, whatever. But as I said, what's been going on, most of the communities that have adopted this ordinance are not into the enforcement issue. They're sort of following the lead of New York City when they banned smoking in their parks, recreation areas, and beaches. The first year, they didn't do any enforcing whatsoever. Again, to get the culture, get the residents and visitors to your lovely community aware that River Edge parks are 100% smoke-free. And again, there will be people that will nicely say, you know what, don't you see the sign? It's not really appropriate for you to be smoking here. And again, one of the things, too, is the fact that the 23 feet, you keep in mind, that's why we're also advising about the parking areas or adjacent areas because of the fact of the wafting of secondhand smoke. Sometimes it's all predicated on wind velocity and exposure amounts and all those kinds of things. But again, we can do this. We're riding in our car, 2 cars ahead of us, and you could smell a cigar or a cigarette
actually, and you're behind there. So this kind of illustrates the point that this is a real serious irritant that does travel and can make us very, very sick. So, that's the purposes. We'd love to work with you on this for technical assistance if needed. Again, I spoke to Bobby Conway today, and, again, she graciously said it would be okay to come, and thank you for affording us. This was sort of a last-minute thing, but we feel so strongly about this, and we want to assist the Recreation Commission on this whole initiative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions? Okay. Mr. Sarlo, has the revised ordinance been circulated to the council members?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
You said to enforce any ordinance, any borough ordinance, the signs would have to say either violator subject to fine or the ordinance number referring it. If it's not on there, then I believe there'd be a challenge that it's not enforceable. So if that's a concern of mine that was already addressed, that they'll put that ordinance number on there, so that wouldn't be an issue.
All right. Is the council ready to take any formal action this evening?
I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution, this ordinance.
To put it on the agenda for...
Yeah, for first reading.
For a first reading?
Yeah, first reading.
Changes or...
No, I would second that the revised ordinance that Mr. Sarlo presented.
All right, we have a motion to place the revised ordinance on the agenda for a first reading for formal adoption. We have a second by Councilman Bartoloni. Any further discussion? Denise, can I have a roll call?
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Aquafredo?
Yes.
Councilman Paula?
Yes.
Councilman McDonald?
Yes.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes.
And Councilman Papalato?
Yes. All right, thank you very much. We're going to
Thank
put
you.
this
Thank
on
you very
for,
much.
we're going to put this on for what's called the first reading. Then it'll be voted upon. After it's voted upon, if it passes, it'll be published in the newspaper for a public hearing, and we'll notify Recreation of the date of the public hearing. We'll open to the public for the public hearing, then we'll close, and then we'll take a final vote for formal adoption. All right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the fire official accident. There's a memo dated March 15, 2013. Alan?
Mayor, our fire prevention officer was unfortunately in a automobile accident. There was about $2,000 worth of damage to the vehicle. He was on a call for the borough. The vehicle that he was in was a New Milford vehicle, and he is asking if the borough would have this repaired. We have made application to the Joint Insurance Fund, but it is under the deductible amount, so the borough would have to stand the cost of making the repair. It's my recommendation that we do make this repair. We have the funds available out of our self-insurance fund to do this.
What is the deductible?
$2,500.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adopt the work session consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained?
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, very good. We have, Alan, you have a council report on the online safety training for elected officials.
If I may, Mayor, just a reminder that by the end of May, we'd like to see all the elected officials take this training. We can obtain a $250 discount or credit on our insurance premium for every elected official that does this. Several of you have been through the process. It probably takes 20 minutes or less. If you need, the instructions that have been made available to go through the training, please reach out to the clerk's office. It's just a reminder, Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, next we have any unfinished business. Any unfinished business?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Councilman Bartoloni.
Thank you. I sent an email to members of the council. I thought it would be helpful, as we've been discussing the bylaws, and I did get a chance to watch the video from last week's meeting, to have a discussion amongst the council members as to what they view their role as a liaison to be, and perhaps that could help guide us in crafting the bylaws. So I did send out that question ahead of time to everyone. So.
Okay. You want to lead off the discussion?
Sure, I'd be happy to. If you look at the bylaws that I drafted, I view the role of liaison as a communicator. To facilitate communication between the department, committee, commission, whatever it be, between that body and this body. I don't view the liaison as an executive. I don't view the liaison as a champion for that or an advocate for that department. I view it as someone who attends the meetings, discusses whatever they need to with the supervisor or whatnot, so that any issues can be brought to the council as a whole, so that you don't have the council, individual people, 6 people going to one department head asking the same question. That's a waste of the department head's time, and so the liaison is there to facilitate communication, and that's the role I think I see the council liaison in, and nothing more. So that's how I view it.
All right, any other views? Ed?
And I just saw the memo Alan had given us this evening, Council Liaison Protocol from 1993, and essentially it's set up the way Councilman Bartoloni explained it. And I think this is the way we've been operating for the past 20 years, so I don't see why we should deviate from that protocol.
All right. Any other views? All right.
Mayor, I have a mixed view. Last year I was liaison to the Social Concerns Committee, the Building Department, the Fire Prevention, Fire Department, and when it came to social concerns and the Building Department, it was really a matter of calling them up, asking them, what are your needs, what are your concerns, what is going on. It was simply a reporting function. But when it came to the fire department, it was a much more involved role with the fire department's fire liaison. Not so much fire prevention. Fire prevention was also more of a reporting. But with the fire department, there was a much more interactive role. There was, and I felt to some degree as an advocate for that department, especially when it came time for budget talks. And in fact, during the budget process for the last 2 years, the liaison for the fire department, the liaison for the police department, and the liaison for the DPW did have a much more active role in explaining, researching, and also discussing and participating with the department heads in what was going on, what were their needs, how those needs might best be fulfilled. So it was not the same sort of role. I've had some really good conversations with Councilman Bartoloni about this, but I see the two. I see at least through my experience, speaking primarily through my experience, that they are not the same. They do not feel the same. They have different expectations, different roles, and since this is our discussion, I'd just like to throw that out.
Okay.
Certainly there's going to be some departments, merely based upon their size, that there's going to be more communication and talk about. However, even within those departments, you're not actually part of the department.
No.
You're not making day-to-day decisions for the department.
No.
Certainly, you're discussing their needs, but then those needs are communicated to the council as a whole. So while it may involve more communication because of the function of the department, it's still facilitating communication between the department and the council. That's in essence what you're doing. I mean, like, as I mentioned, the fire department is, for example, the fire department is a corporation. It's an LLC. It's actually not a part of the, it's the logistics of it. Essentially, it's a separate corporation that the borough contracts with to perform firefighting functions. So you're not part of that corporation. You're not an officer of that corporation. So you're not acting in an executive role. If we were, we would have a commissioner form of government. Where I grew up, where Vito has his office in Nutley, it's a commissioner form of government. We don't have that here. So I think that's what we're talking about. You're not acting in an executive role. You're just facilitating communication. And yes, some departments are going to require more communication because of the role they play in the borough. And I think that why we're having this conversation is because if we are facilitating communication for ourselves, then we should govern ourselves in terms of how we select liaisons, because we're facilitating how we communicate with the rest of our departments and commissions, and that's how we've chosen to govern ourselves, so that we're not, bothering people repeatedly for information. That's set forth in this protocol. So that's why, that's what I think.
May I respond? I see that 3 other hands are up, but could I just quickly respond? I think, Al, that you're making great points. You were asking the council's view of liaisons. I was offering that based upon my experience.
Sure.
Just as a comment, not a criticism or by way of objection. I would say, my comment would be, I see your position as too minimalistic, too legalistic, which I get because you're a lawyer. I just see it. I see it too constricted. But this is my year and I've been on the council a year and a half. You've been on the council, I believe, 2.5.
2 and 3 months.
So you may have a different perspective based on your extra 12 months, but so that's what I'm offering. I'm offering a perspective, and I don't believe it should be that minimalistic or legalistic. But again, it's not a criticism or objection. It's just a clarification of where I'm at. And let others speak.
There were some hands over here. Councilman Eckerfrader.
We're just talking about communication.
Yeah.
So communication is communication. As long as we don't become an instrumental part in policy making of that group of department or commission, and as long as we don't vote within that group, department, commission, we're at best. We are there to establish a two-way communication between us and the group. We're liaisons, and we're not talking about dangerous liaisons, we're just liaisons. So, well, I mean, yeah, you have to look at it on the lighter side of things, otherwise it becomes unbearable. I mean, you're there, you're assigned, you communicate, you assist in making sure that channels of communications are open. Except, if I'm assigned to a zoning board or planning board, because of what I do for a living, if I see something that's against the code, I have to bring that out. I can't just observe it and go, c'est la vie. That's perhaps the conundrum I would find myself in if, in the future, I'm assigned to be the liaison to that type of a department or board. Actually, they're not departments, they're board. Or the building department also. that would be my exception to the communication spiel.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Just had a question for Alan. You have on this list here, number 4, study team. When's the last time there was a study team?
Well, we have, if I may, Mayor, we have subcommittees that, in essence, study particular issues. For instance, we have a technology committee that is studying various computer issues in the borough, which may be relevant to a particular department or across different departments. So, maybe study teams isn't the right phrase to use here to describe, what transpires, but there are many examples where the council breaks down into subcommittees to study a particular issue.
I just didn't know if study team, that was something different
Oh,
than that.
no, yeah, and then the budget is a good example where, there are various aspects of the budgeting process where we break that down, and various elected officials do the research and come back to the larger group.
Ed?
I understand Councilman Papaleo's perspective, and I'm going to give you a little different perspective as police liaison.
Sure.
And again, I have a lot of communication with the chief, but he's not asking my opinion on police matters directly or policy. And anything I'm communicating back to him is the purview of the council only. Generally, it's, we need an ordinance for a stop sign, or it's a budget issue. Stuff that is the direct responsibility of the council person. It's not an executive function. We're not interpreting policy or trying to change executive policy. That's why I believe it's purely a legislative function, and it should be purely under the purview of the council. And the mayor should not be appointing liaisons. No matter who the mayor is. I just think the council needs to choose their own representations, doing a legislative function. It's no different than people testify before Congress asking for laws, and it's the same kind of role that we have. So.
All right, my comment is, and I differ from Councilman Mignon, is that the mayor is a liaison to every department, and if I choose to delegate that to a particular liaison, it's just part of the overall chain of command. And if the liaison is a communicator with a particular department, if a particular department has an issue, they could either go to Alan, or they could go to the liaison to have that issue brought to the governing body's attention. The liaison gives a monthly report every month as to the activities of a particular department. We have been doing that now for since I became mayor, and it works very well, where we have monthly liaison reports as to particular departments and commissions. And I think the chain of command is working very nicely. I don't think that the liaison should get involved with the day-to-day functions of a particular department, but act as a communicator. Yeah.
Just to that point, Mayor, there are branches of government. You're the executive branch. We are the legislative branch. We have a judicial branch. I don't know of a form of government where, let's say, the president gets to tell a congressman or a senator what committee they should be involved in. It simply doesn't work that way, because there are separation of powers. And I think that's what we're talking about. If you want to delegate your power, that's on you, but how we govern ourselves is on us. We're saying collectively, or I don't know, maybe we're not, maybe I'm just saying, that we should have the right to self-determination in terms of who's going to be liaison to what department, commission, board, whatever, because that's how we've chosen to organize ourselves as a separate, independent branch of government. And so that's how I view it. And that keeps in line with the policy that's been in place for 20 years. Now, yes, since you've been mayor, do we have a separate line in our meetings for liaison reports? Yes, we do. But liaison reports are nothing new. They didn't come into existence with your administration. councilmen and councilwomen have been given liaison reports. I mean, I've been coming to these meetings for, I don't know, about 9 years or so, I think, and there's always been liaison reports. They just weren't organized the way they are right now, but that's been going on for a very long time. And you can see that from the policy, I mean, this is a policy that's been in place for 20 years. It's not something I created. It's simply something I'm trying to maintain and codify with the bylaws. So.
I have actually a question for Councilman Bartoloni.
Yeah.
If we went with your version of the bylaws versus the mayor's version of the bylaws, which this is really the only discrepancy, and we are 6 and the vote is 3-3, who breaks the tie? Or are you saying that since it's the council that sets the liaisons, that power then fall to the council president to determine who the liaisons are as elected by the council to lead the council? And if that's the case, then isn't the council president, if there's a tie of 3-3, isn't that vote broken by the mayor? And I'm only asking these questions because if we went with yours, how would this work?
It's kind of like me before the appellate division, but I'll try
I'll
and take one of those at a time. There's state law regarding how we vote and how decisions are made in the case of a tie. Yeah, certainly if there's a nomination and a second for a position and it's 3-3, well then yes, the mayor breaks the tie.
Okay.
Because that's simply how votes are cast under our system. If it's not, then the mayor doesn't vote. Like any other vote. The mayor only votes in case of a tie, because he's the executive and not part of this particular body. Much like the state or the Senate president. The vice president only gets to vote if there's a 50-50 tie in the Senate. So
we already have an opinion from Mr. Sarlo that the adoption of the bylaws would require a 4-2 vote.
Yeah.
Any change in the bylaws or new bylaws during the year. They'll expire December 31st. At that point, then totally new bylaws can be adopted, the reorg, but you've adopted your bylaws on January 1st. They're in existence. Any changes or to get rid of them would require, under the existing bylaws, a 4-2 vote.
All right, I do want to let everybody know it's 7:45. We still have to do new business and open to the public. So if we could cover new business now. Is there any other old business?
Sorry,
Yes.
quickly, sir. I just wanted updates from Alan about the sidewalks, the bus stops, and the downstairs door.
Mayor, if I may, on the sidewalks, a purchase order went out to the contractor with a letter of explanation, listing of the sidewalks to be repaired or replaced. It's my understanding John Lynch will be having a pre-construction meeting with him to go over everything. We also provided a copy of our specifications that are required in town for sidewalk reconstruction. I'll follow up on that and see where we're at with the pre-construction meeting. With regard to the community development block grant for the doors, the appropriate plans have been submitted by the contractor to us last week. They were forwarded to the architect for review. I'll be following up with the architect to determine when he'll be issuing a notice to proceed. And the last item was the New Jersey Transit. Denise has been working with the county clerk's office to track the agreements through the county bureaucracy. We were informed, I believe, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, that the county will be mailing has mailed that document back to New Jersey Transit. We have a follow-up call going to New Jersey Transit tomorrow to determine when they'll release that, I believe, to the Attorney General for their signature and what the timetable is on that.
One other thing, the generator.
the Public Safety Building Generator. I believe we're waiting for Public Service Electric and Gas to do the turnover. There have been meetings between the police department and the contractor to coordinate that. But I don't have any other word on that date. Or any other unfinished business. Any new business?
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Capola.
I just wanted to bring up Sergeant Bill Haggis. If we can do a proclamation or an award for his 29 years of service here to our community as a police officer. I'd like to make that motion if we can.
For a plaque upon his retirement, correct?
Correct.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Thank you. Any other new business? Councilwoman Murphy.
Mayor, thank you. This evening, I have put before everyone an ordinance I would like to discuss regarding outdoor dining. Paramus just adopted this ordinance, so I thought that this might be something good for the new development down by the Huffman Coos to allow this type of dining to take place. So I've given it also to our attorney, Thomas Gallo, for review.
All right.
Mayor,
Yes, Ed?
this was discussed at the planning board. In fact, the Huffman Coos people have asked the council to consider such an ordinance, so I think something we should be able to
Right.
work on.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we have it reviewed by our borough attorney? Then if he suggests any modifications, we could vote to send it to the planning board. Would that be the correct step, Councilman? We'll send it to the planning board for their review. They can suggest modifications to it and to determine whether or not it's consistent with the borough's master plan. If they send it back to us, then we can vote on adoption.
Just one question, Mayor. I said I didn't get a chance to read through this, but the one thing we may want to decide as the governing body first is where this is going to be applicable. If it's going to just be in like shopping centers itself, or you're going to be able to do this down Kindercomack Road. So,
Yeah, you have to read through it because there are what I would call these bulk requirements about setbacks from parking areas and
5 feet
drop-off
from a county road.
areas. I don't think you would be able to do it much on Kindercomack Road, just based upon the...
I'm not even sure we can do it on
Footage
some of the
requirements.
Huffman Coos properties, because the sidewalks are not necessarily going to be wide enough, so I think we need to look at the criteria and...
They might have
so
to
we can-
extend their plaza, their sidewalk
But I think something
area.
that we should be looking at, we just have to just make sure the criteria makes sense.
Make it work.
Okay.
So we'll work off of this. It's a pretty comprehensive one. If anyone has any changes,
I'm sure that
modifications,
the borough Paramus spent a lot of money designing this ordinance, and we can take advantage of some of it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Any other new business? All right. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. All right, we are open to the public. It's 7:50. We're going to close to the public at 8 o'clock and then begin our public session. Would any member of the public like to ask a question, be heard, make a statement regarding any matter affecting their interest? Yes.
Greg Caridi, Assistant Chief for Red Fire Department. Regarding on the public meeting, Resolution 13160, that's the interlocal agreement with Ridgewood. Item number 2, I think there's a correction to be made, so the initial term of the agreement shall be 6 months. I think that should just be 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need it for 6 months.
What was the resolution number?
13-160.
160.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just formalize that. Is there a motion to amend Resolution 13-160?
Do we
on
have
the-
to do that when we go to open a public session?
I think we could do it now.
Then
And
I
we can-
move it, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to be heard? Can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, we're going to take a very short break, and then we're going to begin again at 8 o'clock with our public meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm not used to these big crowds, you know? I'm not used to these big crowds.
The budget here.
Our meetings, we get one, maybe two people. We had one person last meeting. She was really
My brother Wade, where did you go? Peggy, you go wire the...
There's nothing police-related on the agenda.
But anything beyond Neil and Peggy. Yeah, I think so.
All right, are we ready? We're ready?
There's been a few of them. There's one like one every week. There's a big one.
All right, can I have your attention, please? The 8 o'clock public session of the meeting of the mayor and council for the borough of River Edge for Monday, April 1st, 2013 will now come to order. If we could all stand for a moment of silent prayer and reflection. Could Council President Papaleo lead us in a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this act, the mayor and council of the Borough of River Edge have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place posted in the Borough Hall, and notices were sent to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News for publication. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy to safeguard our infrastructure, providing honest, courteous, and professional services to establish a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. We do this through research and prudent planning, seeking to minimize risks while improving municipal services. We are sensitive to the needs of the taxpayer while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints that are imposed by state mandates, the present economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. We are on the record, so everything that is being said is being recorded pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. We are also on videotape during the public portion of the meeting. If you wish to be seen and heard, you need to stand up, give us your name and address, and then we can take any comments or hopefully answer any questions that you may have. If you wish to be seen, you can come forward and stand at the microphone and you'll be recorded on the camera. Can I have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Murphy?
Here.
Councilmember Freda?
Here.
Councilman Coppola?
Here.
Councilman Mignone?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mascarotola.
Here. Okay. We have resolution number 13-155. Hi, Jack. I'm just going to give you this, Jack. First I have to read it. Okay. Whereas autism is a pervasive developmental disorder affecting the social learning and behavioral skills of those affected by it, whereas more health professionals are becoming proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed within the autism spectrum, resulting in rates as high as 1 in 100 children nationally and 1 in 94 in New Jersey, whereas while there is no cure, it is well documented that if an individual with autism receives treatment early in their lives, it is often possible for these individuals to lead significantly improve lives. Whereas individuals with autism require a lifetime of specialized and community support, service to ensure their health and safety, and to support families' resilience as they manage the psychological and financial burdens autism presents. Whereas Autism New Jersey is spearheading an awareness effort in order to educate parents, professionals, and the general public about autism and its effect. Therefore, the Mayor of Borough Blue Ridge proclaims that April 2013 as National Autism Awareness Month. Here you go, Jack.
Sorry. Oh, we done? We'll take a picture. Oh, no, it's okay. We'll do it. Sorry, we don't want to hold up the meeting.
Oh, thank you, Jack.
Great.
Sure.
Thank you.
See the yellow sweater?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, over here,
You have one more?
Thank you so much.
There is a one.
Thank you.
No.
Okay. Barbara Christensen? Barbara, can you tell us your organization?
I'm doing this on my own behalf because I lost a son waiting for a liver transplant, but also for the Women's Club of River Edge. I'm chairman of the Community Improvement Committee, so that's the organization I represent. My president was coming with me, but she couldn't park a car.
Let me read the proclamation. Whereas those who dedicate their time, effort, and skill to help others are amongst the most valuable members of any community, whereas there is a great shortage of organ and tissue donors, and thousands of people on the organ transplant waiting list who will not live to receive a requested organ or tissue. Whereas each day 18 people die while on the waiting list, and every 13 minutes someone is added to the waiting list. That in New Jersey, over 5,000 residents are waiting for organs or tissue. Whereas the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission is cooperating with New Jersey Sharing Network so that you need only to designate on your driver's license that you wish to be an organ donor, and that information will go into a computer data bank. Whereas if you are not a driver, you may designate your wish to be an organ donor on any legal ID card. Whereas the science of matching and performing organ transplant surgery has become more advanced, whereas last year over 600 transplants were performed in New Jersey. And whereas there is a new information brochure which contains a temporary donor card to be filled out and kept in your wallet until you have the opportunity to register this information on your driver's license ID card. Whereas it is possible for one donor to save up to 8 lives and enhance lives for up to 75 others through tissue donation. Therefore, by the power vested in me as mayor, I proclaim April 2013 as Donate Life Month. Thank you.
The New Jersey Sharing Network is celebrated last year's 25th anniversary. I had asked for many of these to give to you, so you wouldn't have, they only sent that one.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
And I would try to get them to send me enough for everybody.
We'll
here.
share.
Well, I'll read it and I'll put it in the mailboxes.
Oh, good. good. It has a lot of interesting information. And if it's, I guess you're going to have a late meeting, I'll just say a few words about it. I just wanted to tell you that in reading one of these articles in their magazine, that I thought it would be interesting to show how dedicated and respectful the recovery surgeons and the technician that is trained by the New Jersey Sharing Network are to the donor and the donor's family. And I read, honoring the recovery of transplant donor recovery. The surgeons and the team, before they start recovering the organ, have a moment of silence in respect of, in honor of the donor. And then I stated, the article stated, I can't find my place, I'm trying to cut it down. The donor, a moment of silence in appreciation of the donor's gift, a precious gift of life. The recovery and transplant surgeons are specialists that stay where the patient, that continue checking up on the patient for the patient's full life. So it's a lifetime job for the patient that receives, the recipient of the organ, and the doctor. And their schedule is so grueling, they never know which hospital in the state will call for a recovery of a life-saving organ, and they catch their naps in the operating room lounge, which may be the only time they get to sleep in a period of 24 hours, and their last meal was a cup of coffee. So you see, they must truly love what they're doing, because the demands are so tremendous on their time. The other dedicated member of the team, the recovery specialist, is well trained by the New Jersey Sharing Network. He works for a 48-period on-call shift. He is trained to assist the recovery surgeon to pack and the recovered organ or tissue, and then with red lights flashing and sirens blasting, he races to the hospital where the transplant surgeon and the recipient patient are waiting. Time is of an essence. But before he leaves the operating room, he lightly touches the shoulder of the donor and thanks him or her for their gifts of life. He states that he and the recovery surgeon always hold the donor in the highest esteem and want to acknowledge them for their gift of life or life enhancement within the case of tissue transplant. The organs that are harvested are the heart, the lungs, the kidney, the pancreas, and the liver, of course. The tissues are the skin, the ligaments, bone, heart valves, and certain veins in the leg. Now there's also, so you can see how dedicated and respectful there are, so that your families could see. Now, how many of you are already donors? How many had never heard of the New Jersey Sharing Network before? Oh, a few. Well, I hope that, I'm sorry that I don't have enough brochures even. They were very stingy with their mailing this year. But they said that because the brochures are the same as last year, they assumed that I wouldn't need as many, I guess. Now, there might be 10 there that I can share with all of you. But they are not enough to go around. But I will be placing them in the borough hall at that desk, you know, when you come in, and in the library, and hopefully in a few churches. So you look for the brochures. Now, there's also in New Jersey Sharing Network Foundation. They deal with the worldly money problem because they do spend a lot of effort and monies in educating the public and the nurses of New Jersey. They have seminars for the nurses with up to 150 at each seminar to acquaint them with the procedure. They get there's a great bond between the families of the donors and the recipients of the organ, because after all they have saved the life of another person, and they get them together, help facilitate that, and they have an annual memorial service for all the donors of the past year, and they invite all of the families of the donors and the recipients if they want to come. So they do a lot of good work, and the foundation collects the money. The New Jersey Sharing Network collects the organs. Now, you can't take them with you, and you won't feel a thing. And it won't cost the donor's family a penny. So won't you please consider doing this life-saving, precious life-saving thing that, and as I say, you can't use them. So
All right, if we could get Peggy White up here. We're National Volunteer Week.
I'm a donor already.
Oh, good.
Get to that guy.
He needs it. Thank you.
All right, Peggy White has been coming to every council meeting for as long as I can remember. She's been a volunteer in this town for 57 years. And I always say that we have about 55 borough employees, but we have over 500 volunteers that really make this town work. If it weren't for the volunteers, then we wouldn't get as much done as we do. We have volunteers for all of our boards and commissions. They're all volunteers. We have volunteers in our ambulance corps, in our fire departments, in our libraries, in our schools, and in our churches, everywhere. Everywhere we have is volunteers.
Wouldn't be River Edge.
Wouldn't be River Edge without volunteers. And many people volunteer for more than one thing. And April 21st to 27th is National Volunteer Week. Last year we had River Edge Volunteer Day. During the National Volunteer Week, and we have some refreshments in the library. This year, I believe the Public Events Committee is planning to have a River Edge Volunteer Day in Memorial Park at the end of April, I think. Anthony's going to be spinning the tunes that day. We're going to be cooking hot dogs. The council members and myself will be cooking hot dogs for all of our volunteers. Come on down if you want to be a volunteer, or if you are a volunteer. So, volunteer for something else. Let me read the proclamation. Whereas the residents of River Edge live in a community that inspires, equips, and mobilizes people to take action that changes lives for the better. Whereas the dedicated volunteers connect with local community service through dozens of community service organizations. Whereas individuals and communities are the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference. Whereas during the week of April 21st to 27th, all over the nation, service projects will be performed and volunteers recognized for their commitment to service, whereas the giving of oneself in service to another empowers both the giver and the recipient, whereas experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our nation's social problems, whereas our country's volunteer force of over 63 million is a great public treasure, and whereas volunteers are vital to our future as caring and productive nation. April 21st to 27th is proclaimed the National Volunteer Week. Peggy, congratulations. All right, next on the agenda are appointments and personnel changes. Can I have a motion to approve the satisfactory completion of the 6-month probationary period of Anthony Ciapolis, Planning, Zoning, Assessor Clerk, effective April 16, 2012?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
I just want to make a comment
Yes.
on Anthony. I think she's been doing a really great job coming into the planning board. I think she's been very responsive, very helpful. When the board needs archive information, she's been able to research minutes, got old plans. She's been very diligent in her work, and I'm pleased that she's getting her satisfactory probation.
Okay. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Next is to approve the salary change of Anthony Ciapolis from the probationary rate of $16.05 to a step 1 hourly rate of $18.12, effective April 16, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the salary increase of Gita Birnbaum, Account Supervisor, from the Step 1 salary of $51,294 to the Step 2 salary of $54,144, effective April 1st, 2013?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Thank you. A motion to approve the salary increase of Noreen Patori, Court Administrator, from the annual salary of $57,420 to $57,900 due to the increase in longevity, effective April 1, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you. On the agenda, there is correspondence which is listed, which is available for the public's review at the clerk's office. In addition, there are monthly reports that are on file with the borough clerk for the library board for February, the planning board for February, the Shade Tree Commission for December and February, the Historic Commission for October 24th, 2013, and for the Board of Health for March 2013. So that's all available for review by the public, should they wish to review the monthly reports of these committees. We have an ordinance on first reading, which is ordinance 1785. Madam Clerk, can you read the title?
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limit and to establish a CAC bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14 for the calendar year 2013.
So moved.
Second.
All right, for the benefit of the public, Alan, could you explain this ordinance?
This is an ordinance which the state allows the mayor and council to adopt, which would increase the spending cap from 2% to 3.5%, from 2.5% to 3.5%. The ordinance does not provide the actual spending in this year's municipal budget, as this mayor and council have introduced the budget at the lower percentage. Therefore, what this would do would be to create the additional ability to spend on certain line items, basically in the years 2014 and 2015.
Okay.
That's the explanation, Mayor.
And this was recommended fiscal policy from you as our CFO?
Yes, I recommended to create the flexibility that a council in 2015 might need. Doesn't necessarily mean that taxes will be increased, since we also have a 2% levy cap on the amount of property taxes to be raised.
Okay. All right, discussion. Anybody? Ed?
Alan, we do have an existing cap bank of about $500,000 to go into next year.
Yes, if I
So
may,
this
Mayor, $480,000 for the 2014 budget, but without this ordinance, it would be zero in 2015.
Any further? Al?
Unless next year the council elects to go to the 3.5%, then you would have monies available for 2015.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call, Denise.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Acrofreda?
Yes.
Councilman Capola?
No.
Councilman Vidal?
No.
Councilman Bartoloni?
No.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, passes.
Okay.
First reading.
All right, we have an ordinance on for second reading. This is ordinance number 1781. Madam Clerk, can you read the title?
An ordinance amending chapter 416 zoning, articles 4 and 8 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of River Edge.
All right. This is the so-called duplex ordinance that most of the members of the public that are present are here about. It began back in, I guess, October of 2012. It's been kicked around from this body to the planning board and back a couple of times. We've had public hearings, we've had testimony, we've had planning reports. It's now listed for the public hearing and then a vote on final adoption. Is there a motion to open the hearing to the public on ordinance 1781 and only ordinance 1781?
We have to. So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to open the hearing to the public. Roll call, Denise.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Oh, this is on the motion to open it up to the public?
Yes.
Okay.
Does the council have to open to the public if it never intends on voting?
The council can vote up or down on opening to the public.
Tom?
That's the only motion right now. We haven't got to the motion to either approve or deny or to take no action on it. Right now, the only motion is to open it to the public. I don't know how the council is going with it, so I can't answer that question.
do it?
So,
No, we're not open to the public yet, so please don't speak. When we're open to the public, you can be heard.
so just a roll call to open it to the public.
If the motion never opens to the public, then the ordinance effectively dies.
Then I'll withdraw my motion to open it to the public.
Second.
So the motion has now been withdrawn.
To open it to the public.
Or you're withdrawing your motion, so there's no more first, so you can't second his motion. You withdrew his motion. All right.
If we don't need to open it to the public, I withdraw.
So let me just put my comment on the record. Right now is ordinance 1781 on for final adoption. If there is no motion to hold a public hearing on this motion, then ordinance 1781 will terminate, and if the council, in its wisdom, seeks to introduce an ordinance similar or identical to ordinance number 1781, then it would have to be put on for a first reading. It would have to be voted upon and passed. It would have to be referred once again to the planning board for their recommendations and review, and the council would get the recommendations or review back. The council could choose to affirm those recommendations. The council could choose to reject the planning board's recommendations or determination and proceed to vote on any new ordinance. But I just wanted that statement on the record because we've already been to the planning board twice, and the planning board has given us their opinion that this council can reject, can adopt, or can modify. As I recall, this ordinance 1781, when we received it back from the planning board just 2 weeks ago, it came with additional recommendations for changes that have not yet been put into this ordinance. So they're on the table also. So I just wanted the public to be aware of that. All right, anything else? All right, let's move on to the next agenda item.
I don't know. I don't think does the public understand what just happened?
All right, let me explain it again, because I thought I explained it the first time. In order to quiet everybody. In order to adopt the ordinance, we have to have a public hearing. In order to have a public hearing, there has to be a motion from a council member, there has to be a second, and it has to pass. And then we open to the public, we hear from all the members of the public. We've heard from you several times before. After having a public hearing on the ordinance, we would close the hearing to the public, and then we would vote on the final adoption of the ordinance. Okay? That is the normal course of events for a piece of zoning legislation. Right now, there is no one who wants to make a motion or a second to open the matter up for a final hearing. It seems as if the public has been heard loud and clear on this ordinance, and by not voting for a public hearing, the ordinance will terminate. It will be a dead issue. So, does everybody understand that?
Why don't they vote?
We're not open to the public yet. We're not open to the public yet.
Mayor? I'd make a motion just to open it to the public so we can address their questions, because I don't think they understand that it's dead. The ordinance is dead.
Just postponing it.
Well, yeah, that's...
We're going to open the meeting to the public after we get through our resolutions, just like we always do, where you can ask questions, make a comment, and we can address them then. As of right now, ordinance 1781 is dead. All right. let's just get through our resolutions, then we can open the hearing to the public, we can have council comments, we can finish the meeting.
Just on this issue though, Mayor?
Go ahead.
I think what the public is concerned is the comment that you made regarding reintroduction of this ordinance at a later time.
My comment was,
Well, I think that's what has them concerned.
if the majority council wishes to address this issue regarding duplex housing in Park Avenue, they will have to, just so the public is aware, they will have to reintroduce the ordinance, notify everybody, go back to the planning board, do it all over again. You just can't take this ordinance and dust it off next week and put it on for a final adoption. It's not the way it works. You have to go through the whole process all over again. Wait a minute.
We can, but voting on it doesn't change it. We have an opinion from our borough attorney that you can vote no, and then the very next day, the very next meeting, reintroduce it as a first ordinance. So by not voting yes to opening the public is a vote no. If we open it up, go through the process, vote no, it still doesn't change the right of the legislative body to just reintroduce it. So there's two ways to kill it. This is the quickest, easiest, it's dead. You can vote no, but voting no doesn't change the fact that the very next week we could reintroduce it. That's the legislative prerogative. So there's no point in voting no because it doesn't change what the legal standing is. By no one voting yes to move it or second it is the same thing as everyone voting no. Because if anybody wanted to vote yes, they'd have to move it and second it. So we've just voted essentially no. It's dead. It's gone.
All right. Council President, can you turn the meeting back to the chair?
I'm sorry.
Council. We have resolutions by consent, 13-156 up to including 13-165. Does any member of the council wish to pull out for separate consideration, discussion, or vote any of the resolutions on the consent agenda?
No.
Mayor, just a clarification, it's a modified 13-160, right?
13-160 is amended from 6 months to 6 weeks for the loan of the fire truck from the village of Ridgewood, while our fire truck is in the shop. Yes.
Mayor, I would ask that Resolution 13-158 be tabled once again, as the representatives from Capital Alternatives have not come before the council. I still want them to come in before we enter an agreement with them.
All right, there's a motion to table that we have to take first before we do the rest of the resolutions by consent. Is there a second on that?
Second.
A motion and a second to table. Let's have a roll call. Denise?
Councilwoman Murphy?
No.
Councilman Eccleston?
No.
Councilman Cola?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Guadalupe?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
No.
Mayor?
No. Doesn't cost us anything to appoint Capital Alternatives in the interim. We don't have any new work to give them. We don't have any signed contract with them going forward until we see them, until they appear before us. So I'm voting yes. All right, on the remainder of
Can I get clarification on something, Mayor?
Go ahead.
That you will not enter into, you will not sign the contract until they come before this body?
I will not sign any contract until they come before this body.
So you just wanted authorization to sign it?
Yeah.
But you won't sign?
I'm not going to sign it.
Okay.
I'm going to see them.
All right, very good.
We're going to see them, and we're going to see what they're going to put on the table this year, what grants are available, what they can go out for, the status of the two existing grants for Midland Avenue and Howland, see where we are with that. But we need to have a grant consultant that we can consult with in the interim. All right, is there a motion for the remainder of the resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstained? Councilman Mignon, can you read 13-165, the payment of bills.
Yes, Mayor. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $939,520.71. Capital account, $2,300. Recreation account, $98.84. Trust other account, $1,346.66. Trust other developers account, $1,775. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, very good. I would like a motion now to open the hearing to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, the motion, the public hearing is now open to the public to discuss, to make any comments regarding any matter affecting their interest. Would anybody wish to speak? Yes, I saw a hand right up there.
Elaine Gibbons, 220 Dorchester Road, River Edge, New Jersey, and I just am very disappointed that it's politics as usual, in my opinion. I think the vote should have come, everybody should have voted, even though I do understand, some of us really do understand what's being said here, even though some people act as if we don't. And I understand that how it would work, but I still think people would have liked to have heard the vote. That's just my comment.
Yes, sir. People did hear.
Mike Cray, 879 Park Avenue. Probably most of you have seen me more than you want to at these meetings, but I want to say thank you.
Can't hear you.
I said probably most of them have seen more of me than they want to at these meetings, but I wanted to say thank you because I think one of the big concerns that a lot of people had through this whole process was that we weren't being heard, and that the deliberative part of this process wasn't happening. I think whatever method was arrived at to say you heard us and it wasn't moving forward is appreciated. People that listened with open minds, we thank you. And thank you for your effort and your attention and your willingness to hear what we have to say.
Thank you. Peggy.
Peggy White, 741 Center Avenue. I've been concerned about what buildings were going to look like, and many people that have been speaking to me have been talking about it as if it's 2 buildings with 4 total units. This is supposed to have been just 1 building with 2 units on it, right? On each lot.
Right.
And on the whole lot with 70 feet.
Right now, it's an unpermitted use.
I know, but if we were to do this again,
Okay.
we have to consider what might happen if it was going to happen again. Because my understanding when the gentleman was here originally talking about it, he was talking about 1 building with 2 houses connected by 1 wall.
That's correct.
1 building on those 2 lots.
That's correct.
See, now, the people...
2 buildings on each lot. That's what it was.
One building with a common wall
Right.
on each lot. Yeah.
But-
I know. 2 lots, 4 units.
Well, that's double than what he was talking about as far as I was concerned, and I believe as far as some of your council people are concerned. Because that has been my question all along. 1 building wouldn't be so bad if it was just 1 building with a common wall.
That's what it was.
I mean, you're talking about, they're not saying it's 1.
It wasn't 1 building with 4 separate units. It was 1 building on each lot, 2 lots, 2 buildings. Each building had a common wall there would be 2 single-family residences.
How wide is his property?
It doesn't matter.
It does, because it's the minimum lot width shall be 70 feet. So,
The total,
it's
It's done, Peggy.
It's done.
Peggy, it's done.
I know it's done, but I still have to know that.
We're going to take back the volunteer award.
It was, the entire square footage of the lot had to be a minimum of 7,500 square feet.
Okay, well then it's too much, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, then I guess the council got it right then. All right, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Sherry Garcia, 839 Park Avenue. Just a question. You had said something, the ordinance can be modified with the planning board's recommendations for changes?
When
Could you just explain that comment?
my comment was that the proposed ordinance
Yeah.
that is no longer alive
Right.
went to the planning board twice. The first time they suggested modifications, which were adopted by the council. Then the public came and expressed concerns. We sent the matter back to the planning board for additional reconsideration because we had a new planner, and we had a hearing before the planning board, and the planning board again sent the ordinance back to us with additional modifications. One of them was to add Lot 22, I think, that was not included in the original ordinance, and the other modification was to change it from a 2.5-story to a maximum of 3 stories. So, but those changes, because the process was cut short today by the council's vote not to hold the public hearing, those changes were never modified and incorporated in the last version of this ordinance.
Can the ordinance be reintroduced under another number?
I'll say it for I think the 3rd time now. We would have to give it a new number, we'd have to introduce it, there'd have to be a first reading, it would have to go back to the planning board, everybody would have to get notified within 200 feet, there would have to be another hearing, the planning board would have the opportunity to send us a report of their findings, it would have to come back to us, we would have to hold the public hearing, and then we could vote on it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Marge Burns, 236 Wheels Avenue, River Edge. Based upon what you just said, my guesstimate is that it will be reintroduced in August, when everybody's on vacation and not paying attention, and they'll get what they want. It's happened before in this town.
Anybody else? Yes.
Ellen Busky, 597 Bogart Road, and I am a member of the planning board, and I've spoken before this body several times on this issue. The planning board did make a bipartisan decision when it did return its findings to the mayor and council, and based on this action tonight, this illustrates that you've listened and that this is not the direction our community wants to go. And it clearly illustrates to me what I've urged you all to do before, which is to make the review of the master plan a priority for the governing body so that we don't find ourselves in this position in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia. Virginia.
Thank you. A quick question, Virginia Sully, East Point, Detective. Mr. Mayor, who called the attorney representing the developer about your decision? Because it was preordained when we came in here tonight. Who notifies Thomas J. Barrett at 9:10 when he come out? He's not here.
All I can tell you is that I received a telephone call today from Mr. Kalika wanting my opinion whether he should attend the meeting.
Yes, sir?
And I told him, in my opinion, he need not attend.
That was it?
That was it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Miller?
Oh, you remember my name, thank you. Jim Miller, 885 Park Avenue. I'd like to thank both the governing body that they finally listened to us. I'd like to thank my family for putting up with all the efforts that of myself, David, numerous neighbors. Our email list is over 50 strong, and our petition of 180 people signing it is a testament to the democratic process in the town. I hope this ordinance doesn't get reintroduced because we try to say every 2 years we seem like we have to go to battle, and I'm tired of going to battle. Just please leave us alone. Follow down by the south end of town, because we all can't keep pouring our time from our families and our businesses to come down and complain on something that we need you guys to fight for us. So, and again, David, you've been great, and all the neighbors that spent the time talking in front of the board, it's commendable. And again, it's a great tribute to the democratic process. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sheila DeVay, 17 Park Avenue. I'd like to say thank you. I became a citizen a few years ago. I wasn't born here, and it makes me really proud to be an American. Because of y'all, but because of y'all too. It really makes me proud, because this country is a wonderful country. And things like this happen here is incredible. It doesn't happen in most countries, believe me. So I'm very happy and very proud of everybody. Thank you.
Jim Kelly, 213 Woodland Avenue, River Edge. Not to be lost, National Volunteers, I guess, month. It should be reminded everybody that you too are volunteers, and you work hard. Sometimes you're not recognized for that. I want to recognize you for that. You did a great job with the budget. You worked in a bipartisan manner putting this together. I'm very proud of you, very proud to be a member of River Edge. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Not the same as last time.
Give us your name. Give us your name and address.
Charlie Keene, 855 Park Avenue, River Edge.
Okay.
Last time I gave you a hard time. This time I'm going to give you a little more hard time. Kinnikamak Road by Fuki Sushi's is filthy. Filthy. The barrels are overspilling. The cigarette butts, the packs and packs of butts and packages all over the place. I walk there every day. I pick up as much stuff as I can, but I don't want to look like a poor soul. Somebody give me a cup of coffee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you do something for me?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Dave Rabinowitz, 44 Gates Avenue. Mayor, as you mentioned that you told the attorney not to come.
I didn't speak to the attorney. I spoke to Mr. Kalika.
Whoever you spoke to. Perhaps the mayor and the council can embrace social media so that the town as a whole can be notified whether they should attend or not attend a meeting, or whether the town can work smarter and embrace the views of the whole community.
Yes, sir.
Just want to ask.
Give us your name and address, please.
Jim Anastas, 818 Park Avenue. What are you going to do for Charlie Keene's problem? I didn't hear an answer.
What am I going to do for Charlie Keene? I'm going to notify the DPW to take a look.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Can I have a motion to close the hearing to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Council comments. I'll begin with Councilwoman Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank the residents for coming to our meeting tonight. I would also like to thank the residents of Park Avenue for vocalizing their opposition to this action. In particular, I took to heart the words of Mr. Cray. His statement was well presented and eloquent. I also respect the opinions of many of the Park Avenue residents that came before us. I am hopeful that next year's budget, money may be put aside to review our master plan and that future developments and recommendations be included. That's all I have.
Councilman Acquafreda, any comment?
Just briefly, I guess my great-great-great-uncle would have said, res ipsa loquitur, which means the thing speaks for itself. Just a good way to say thank you for being so part of the democratic process, because that's what this is. And you are part of the check and balances that we need to listen with an open mind. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Coppola.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to second that. I thought it was great, whether and however anybody saw it, the situation, pro or con, but it was amazing to see everyone come out and those lawn signs. I think you guys had a website, and to kind of piggyback on what that young lady said over there, it made me feel proud too. And again, regardless of what my opinion is or anyone's, just the process, it made me feel, wow, this is a great country, and just feel really blessed to be in this country, America, and again, proud to be in this town. And it'd also be nice to see this room packed like this, because there's a whole lot that goes on that affects you too. So maybe we can see a lot more of you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mignon.
Mayor, just unrelated item first, I just want to make an announcement that the Hackensack River cleanup is scheduled for Saturday, April 27th from 10 to 2 down at KBG. Peggy White on the Environmental Commission helped for many years putting this together, and we have a date and time, so I'm hoping we get a good turnout. And since we got people here tonight, I'm hoping that we get some turnout, better turnout than last year. It's a fun day.
It's fun.
Yes, and Jim Miller on the Environmental Commission. It's a fun day, and you'd be amazed at the amount of debris that's pulled out of the river in just a short amount of time, and it's a worthwhile effort, and I do encourage everybody to attend. Go to the Park Avenue ordinance. I mean, this should have been dead at the first reading. You came, gave us the same arguments you gave us before the planning board, and I don't know why we proceeded. To say we're blaming this on the master plan now, well, the planning board found it consistent with the master plan. So I don't know what changes to the master plan we would make so this would not have happened, except to me, the master plan was clear that we shouldn't have gone forward. So I commend all the residents down there for organizing. I think your passion and your devotion to the cause was admirable, and I'm glad that we heard you and that we're responsive to your concerns. Thank you.
Councilman Bartoloni.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone for being here. It's been said, but I'll just say it again. The right to petition your government and assemble with your list of grievances it's a uniquely American experience. And watching the process play out was fantastic. More so because it was the outcome that I was hoping for. And so I'm glad to see that it did happen, that the voices of the people were heard and recognized. Might have taken a little longer than I would have liked, but it did happen, and so I am proud of that. To the developer, I would just hope that he will not engage in sour grapes, that he will build something that is in line and in keeping with the character and nature of the street, not build some monstrosity down there that doesn't fit with the residential character of the neighborhood. So I would hope he would keep that in mind. In terms of just some of the other things that have taken place here, and why I am glad that everyone's here, unfortunately, the circumstances that it takes to get people out. But we had also an open hearing on our budget, and no one had a question, and I could understand you're focused on something else, but I wish people did have questions about the budget, because quite honestly, the municipal level of government, I think you see, can have the most impact on your life of any level of government. County, state, federal, the local government really can have an impact on your life, from taxes to zoning, and it's important to be engaged. I mean, this is really the only level of government that you have an opportunity to come here and be heard like this, right next to your homes. You can't do that on the state and federal level. You don't have that opportunity, but you have that ability to be heard here. And so I hope everyone really avails themselves of that opportunity. Come here, question us, ask why certain things are the way they are. It's so important, so that the people who are sitting up here don't operate in a vacuum. Because things could happen that you find out about later that you just don't like. So please, we know you're tech savvy, you put together a website, please go on our website, look at the meetings, watch what's going on, and come to us with questions and challenge us, because it's very important. In terms of the proclamation for Donate Life, just I would caution everyone, if you do become a donor, let your family know that you did that, because it's important. I can tell you firsthand, I was in a situation where we didn't know if our loved one was a donor, and the family struggled with that decision because they didn't know if it was in line with that person's wishes. And so don't make your family have to go through that decision-making process. Let them know that you're a donor. Make that clear. The Sharing Network is a great organization. They do let you know what's going on. They keep you abreast of how the organs or tissues that were collected are used, and really, they try very hard to make you feel good about those efforts. It's a great organization. So please, fill out the forms, become a donor if you can. What else? I know I had some other things, I'm sorry. Just in terms of the bylaws, hopefully we can continue to work on that. I think that's important. We do need to update it. Our bylaws say the borough of Riverside. They don't even say the borough of River Edge. That's how we'll go. So we need to come to some consensus on that. And just, we were talking about the master plan. This did give me an opportunity to really sit down and read it. And if anybody's read the master plan, what's interesting is a lot of the issues that are there, and this was written in 1984, so it's almost 30 years ago. The issues that were discussed are the same issues that we're debating now. That's the amazing thing. So I'm excited that we're going to have our redevelopment attorney coming here, and our redevelopment planner, so we can really start addressing the issues along Kindercamack Road, along the south end of town, because these are topics that have been discussed for 30 years. I mean, that's ridiculous. We have an obligation to start moving forward in a positive way. In terms of, the planning board's decision and the master plan, I mean, I was at that meeting, and, the planning board did find that it was in conformance. I disagreed. I believe Councilman Mignon was correct. And if you look through it, I mean, it was so clear. It says the existing residential zoning districts include the R1, R2, and R3 districts. Okay? Park Avenue is in an R1 district. All residential uses are controlled by the use, bulk, and off-street parking and loading requirements. The 3 residential districts have been specified allowing pyramid uses. This structure permits R1 uses in the R2 and R3 zones, in R2 in the R3 zone. It does not permit upzoning uses in R1 zones, meaning you could not have R2 zoning in an R1 district. You could not have multi-family, multi-dwelling units in a R1 area. It didn't conform with the master plan. And so that decision, I just don't understand how that was reached, to be quite honest. And if you go through it extensively, you'll see that, it says prevent development of incompatible land uses in all residential neighborhoods through zoning and land use controls. And it goes on even further to say we don't need more development in the town, that we should maintain the housing stock that we do have. That was all spelled out in the master plan. So, I disagreed with the planning board decision. But thank you all for coming here, being a part. Please continue to come to the meetings. It's so important that you're involved. Thank you.
Councilman Papaleo.
I've been the president of Teachers, Secretaries, and Paraprofessional Organization for 4 years before I got on the council, so I admire good organizational skills, and you guys deserve a round of applause. You did a great job of organizing yourselves. I think that this is what democracy is about. It's about being willing to speak about the issues. It's about getting yourself organized and out there, and so you should be commended. And it is what America's all about. Just a couple of comments. I just real quick, in November, I believe it was November, that this ordinance came up. It was voted unanimously yes by everyone on this council, and several members of the council tweaked pieces of it. I know that, Ed, I think you were talking about the 70 and the frontage and the driveways and everything else. And the council at that time thought it was a good idea. And then it went to the planning board twice, and 2 different planners and 2 different attorneys offered an opinion that this is in keeping with the planning board. And this is where Al and I disagree. I believe this has come up with our CFO. This has come up other times. If you hire experts to give you an opinion, and then you don't like their opinion, it's kind of like going to the doctor, which my mother did, and getting medicine and treatment, and then not taking medicine and treatment. I believe that if 2 planners and 2 lawyers says it's in keeping with the master plan, it was in keeping with the master plan. And if the planning board listened to those experts, they would have to vote yes. But the real testimony of government and democracy in America is recognizing that you have a 2-fold responsibility, in my opinion. I could be wrong. The first fold is to look for the betterment of the community as a whole, and the second is listening and responding to the residents and the voters. That's what happened. You guys came for the second hearing. No one had come for the second reading, and you said, wow, this is not something we wanted. So I said, and other members of it said, well, then why don't we table this? We're not going to push this through because you don't want it. We're going to give it a chance. We're going to reintroduce it. That was what we said, and we did. And then we gave you an opportunity to speak on it. And I thought many of your arguments were very good. I thought some of your arguments were a bit unfair. But that's the way, democracy works. In the end, this body as a whole decided not to move this forward, and that's the same thing as voting no. And I told Jim my vote was no. And this seemed to be not the easiest, but the most appropriate way to kill it, and it died. So this is the way democracy works. We said we would reintroduce it, we did. We said we'd listen to you, we did. We said we'd send it to the planning board again. The planning board listened to its 2 attorneys, its 2 planners, we did. It was bipartisan in its initiation. Sam Seresti, who used to sit in Tom Sarlo, is the treasurer for the Republican Party in town. He was the one who crafted the bill. We all listened to it. It sounded like a good idea. The Democrats thought it was a good idea. The Republicans thought it was a good idea. And it seemed like a great way to help revitalize the section. But you guys didn't want it. You're the voters. You count. You absolutely count. And so it died. And that's why it died. It was not, Elaine, politics as normal. And it was not, I don't know what your name is. It's not a way to reintroduce it later. I said to Jim then, I'll say to you now, I'm going to vote no. It's not going to go there. So I think we don't want to revise the history. We don't want to say the planning board acted inappropriately when both their lawyers and both their planners said this is something we wanted to do. Do I think if it had gone to a vote, I would have voted no? I think the planning board did its job. It was simply to assess whether it fit with the master plan. Its experts said yes, but it doesn't make a difference. It was wrong for River Edge. It was wrong for Park Avenue. It was wrong for you. My vote is no now, and my vote will be no in the future. My cell phone number is 201-321-6277. I'm going to say it one more time. Call me if you think. I just want to make one other comment. I said this to the River Edge Board of Education last week. They went to move their budget. The only person in the audience who wasn't part of the Board of Education administration was me. I was the sum total of the audience. And they said, oh my God, why are people coming? Guess what? You don't need, you guys have busy lives. I understand what the council is saying, we wish you were here every day, but that's ridiculous. You have busy lives, and if you can't be here, you shouldn't be chided or told that, you should have been here. The process worked. You were informed, you disagreed with it, we tabled it. We reintroduced it, you came in, you opposed it, you offered your reasons, it died. That's the way it works. There's no reason for you guys to be here really, would you want to be here every Monday night? I don't think so. So, in closing, I think this process worked right. I heard your arguments, others did. We discussed it amongst ourselves. As long as we don't discuss, as long as four of us aren't discussing at the same time, as long as we're not looking for votes, as long as it's an honest debate, that's the way good government works. We did it for you. I think this was the right decision. It was a good decision. And I just want to say thank you for coming and thank you for exercising your right as voters. I think it was great.
All right, now let me just give my short comment. I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's always better when we have an audience full of members of the public that are participating in the process. Most of you are here tonight in response to a proposed zoning change involving Park Avenue, ordinance number 1781. The opposition to that ordinance was very well organized. I commend the effort. You guys really did a good job in marshaling public support behind you in educating members of the planning board, members of this council as to the public policy and the balancing of interests involved in the ordinance. At the end of the day, the council heard you. They heard you loud and clear. The democratic process is alive and well in the borough of River Edge, knock on wood. And I think there's at some point during the discussion when it became very passionate, I heard some comments that divided us as a community rather than uniting us as a community. Those comments involved leeches and renters and low income and things like that. I understand them in the heat of the moment. I received some emails and correspondence apologizing for those comments. Most of the comments, or the vast majority of the comments that I heard were based upon the facts and the evidence that the community didn't want this. They didn't want this for a good reason. They liked their community. They didn't want to see any changes. They didn't want to see any additional density. Those are things that we can understand when we have discussions in those terms. They didn't want to see any more density. They didn't want to see any more traffic. They didn't want to see any change in property values. They didn't want to see any more additional students in the school system. We appreciated all those comments. We took those comments to heart. The council deliberated long and hard in their decision tonight. For better or for worse, they came to a decision, which I think that is the right decision for the particular neighborhood. I don't see this ordinance or this type of ordinance being introduced at any time soon, at any time in August or anything like that. We have a master plan that requires that requires a great deal of work. Again, I want to thank everybody for participating in the process. We hope to see you again. We had our $14 million budget on the agenda tonight, and there wasn't one comment from the public. The school system had... You had a comment?
Yeah, you did.
All right. We had I forgot my friend, Mr. Howard Kelly, had a comment. We have a $30 million Riverdale school budget. You got to go to those meetings because it's twice the size of the municipal budget, and you should be heard at those meetings, because if you were heard, then there could be changes in the tax structure and the way that our valuable tax dollars are spent throughout our community. And with that, I want to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're adjourned.